this lesson, we're going to learn how to tie the Munter Mule. In considering tying the Munter Mule, I'm going to also offer a bunch of different considerations and of why we tie it, some history behind it, etc. The Munter hitch, to start with, it also gets called other things. You might hear it called the Italian hitch in particular, or the cross hitch. The Munter hitch itself is pretty key in the evolution of climbing. It was invented by the Swiss mountain guide Werner Munter. It was a pretty key step in the evolution of how we belayed in the mountains, where climbers at one time were restricted to belaying off of their bodies, like with a hip belay or a shoulder belay. And this was long before the days of plate style devices like an ATC, and long before the days of an assisted braking device like a gree-gree. So when Munter invented the Munter hitch, it allowed climbers to belay off of a carabiner and to rappel. So it can be used to belay and descend. And we're going to teach you all of those things here in this course. But it's a pretty key step for climbers in using it. One of the things we want to consider when we're tying the Munter Mule is the carabiner we're using to tie the Munter hitch itself. You've got like traditional oval style carabiners. These are not going to be very effective for a Munter hitch, so we want to stay away from those. We also have small D-shaped carabiners. These are great, like oval carabiners for certain applications, but not great for a Munter hitch, and we'll explain more why here in a moment. We've also got like larger D-style carabiners. Also not a great option here. What we really want to use is a large pear-shaped carabiner. Okay, often ones with a round stock compared to an I-beam stock. Now this Petzl carabiner actually does have some I-beam construction, but still has a large, round, mostly round stock with a large rope-bearing surface. These are what we really want to use for tying a Munter hitch in the first place. And one thing to note here is that you have different carabiners which are really meant for different tasks, and you see people maybe misapplying some carabiners for different tasks. There are carabiners that traditionally get called HMS carabiners, and some carabiners, if you start looking at it, you'll actually find it'll say HMS on the carabiner, or it might even be marketed as an HMS carabiner. And one of the questions we sometimes get is like, what's HMS? Does it stand for Her Majesty's Service, which is what ships in the British Royal Navy are named, and it's not that. It stands for, and I can never say this very well, I always have to write it down. It stands for Halbmast-Wurfsicherung. Now, I know I butchered that. I studied German for a little while I was in high school, but not very well. And so that's what HMS stands for. That is German for half clove hitch belay. And that's what the Munter hitch is. And in tying your hitches, you probably notice that the Munter and the clove are actually very similar. And so the idea here is that an HMS carabiner, a carabiner that might have the H in a circle on the spine. Not all carabiners will show that, but it's intended to take 2 turns of a rope. And so that's what's really key. Before you go and start tying Munter hitches, and particularly the Munter Mule, make sure you have a big HMS style carabiner.